What's good? God is good. I'm your host, J.DIDIT. Welcome to Thursday Therapies. This is a podcast for all creatives, rappers, poets, artists, activists, Sacramento community therapy discussion. Today I have David Loret de Mola, a non-binary first-generation Cuban American. David is Sacramento's reigning Grand Slam champion. In the past, they have been recognized by the California State Senate for their work in the arts and is a proud National Poetry Slam and individual World Poetry Slam representative of Sacramento, whose work has been featured on Button Poetry and in more than 10 chapbooks, one full collector of poems, and one album. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
You've been getting to work, right?
Yeah,
right.
no.
Wow.
Sometimes I didn't do it this time, but sometimes I'll mess with people when they do ask me for the artist bio. Right. I'll just slip in a line that just says, I like ducks, and just see, did they read it beforehand or not?
I love that. I would have put that. That would have been good because it just, it just throws in a little spunk into who you are, and I love that. No, that's dope.
A little sass.
Yeah. So welcome to Thursday Therapies.
Thank you. Let me tell you, I've been really actually excited for this,
awesome.
Seriously, because I've seen other episodes you've done. Okay. I'm like, all right, how do I get on here? So I'm really happy that you came.
Yes, I know. It just was meant to be because the last time I seen you was on New Year's, and I'm like, let's get you on the show, and now here we are again. I'm just like, it's amazing that so many people are coming up to me like, I want to be on your show, and I'm just like, okay, I have to. There's life in me right now, but I'm just like, I definitely want to be able to open this platform up for so many people in the Sacramento community and just bring awareness to mental health. It's been amazing, the outpour of support in the community right now for me.
Seriously, because we always say it, we don't talk about it enough,
right.
And then it's then we don't talk about it afterwards.
Right.
So I'm really glad that we have Thursday Therapies. I'll gladly do the shout out for that.
Right, and then that's yours. And
those
then
are mine?
That one says, what does that one say?
Oh, this one says, check yourself, check your mental health.
Right, that part. Right.
Are these for sale by any chance?
They're yours.
Oh, they're mine. Okay.
Those ones are yours, but I'm going to get some more. I can give them for sale. I'm just
saying, you need to support.
Yes, definitely support.
Right, this is beautiful work.
Check yourself, check your mental health. Yeah. So how are you doing? How's your week going?
It's going really well. I'm getting ready to go off to do a thing I can't actually talk about because I signed
I love those type of
non-disclosure.
things.
Yeah, it's down in L.A. in the Hollywood area, and nothing else is happening.
Okay, that's it. You're just going in the area.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. That's
and just
dope.
having some fun.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm back in college as of last semester. Was my first semester back in 15 years. I got straight A's last semester. I'm on track to do the same this semester.
Nice.
And I've never gotten straight A's before in my entire life.
Isn't it amazing how, high school and everything like that, you go to school, nobody wants to be there. Right? Nobody wants to be there. So they're just okay, half-ass doing the work. But then once you get to college, it's you really want to learn the shit.
No,
right?
and on top of that, so I've had major depression my whole life with PTSD, grief issues. I've dealt with death since I was a little kid. Right. I learned that I have ADHD, and I'm actually getting treated for that. Because my major depression, there's different forms of depression. One of them is treatment resistant.
Right. So
I'm on that area where if I take medication, my experience, be it SSRIs, SNRIs, you name it, I'll either immediately feel static or I will feel almost high for 2 weeks, and then it takes a hard flip on me, and I turn, I don't know what the content warnings are or anything like that, but suicidal.
I don't think there's any content warning. This is raw and uncut. I mean, it is what it is. Mental health is mental health.
It's brutal sometimes.
It's definitely brutal.
I have a long history, just to get that out there, with suicide from, I say 11 years old. The thing with major depression is there are memory gaps. So it could be anywhere from 9 to 11 years old that I first attempted. But I say 11 just because that kind of lines up with where I may have been at when I did it. A lot since, and there's memory gaps along that. So I don't really remember every attempt I've ever had.
Wow.
But my point is, though, go through all that stuff. And it's you're going to expect me to do college also.
Right.
And I just fell apart in 2010 and attempted, had to drop out because I was just broken apart as a person.
I'm so sorry.
And then it took 15 years to get back to where I was. Yeah. And it's been beautiful. I'm being treated for my ADHD, which allows me to focus. I'm in therapy right now, which has done wonders for me. And like, I can't speak highly enough of the fact that I have a support system on top of that.
That's amazing.
You know?
That's going to tie into all the questions
Yeah.
that I'm going to ask you.
Let me
like,
just answer
look,
them all up front,
there
and then we
goes,
can talk
there
about
goes,
hopscotch or something.
Right. There goes the interview. No, just kidding. So, wow. So you're back in school. Okay, that's awesome. I
and
love
it's
that.
going great. I'm studying to be a psychologist. I've wanted to be
it.
a therapist since I was 15.
That's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
You know, you have lived experience, and you just are able to help people on a deeper level. I think it's just awesome. You know,
and it's always been one of those things where people feel comfortable coming to me.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I used to love when I went to ARC, American River College.
I went to ARC.
Oh, no joke.
Yep, I graduated from their human service and chemical
Hell
dependency.
yeah. Go Beavers.
Right.
The weirdest mascot we could have.
Right.
But I would ride the bus there. And literally, like, so often, people would do this thing where, like, they would look at me and then double take and just sit next to me and start talking.
Wow. That comfort, huh?
That comfort level, I don't know if I, like, exude chillness. Right. I don't know what it is. But my most agitating version of that was someone came on, did the double take. She sat down next to me, and she tells me this story. And it's not that she upset me. It's that I don't know the conclusion of the story. And I'm like,
oh, man.
So she was escaping an abusive husband. She was pregnant. Whoa. And she was on her way to take care of the baby and get that out. And have an abortion. Why am I talking around these? Have an abortion. And she got off the bus. I was young at the time, or else I would have been like, hey, can I get your phone number to make sure you're okay?
Right.
I didn't even think to do it. So I don't know the end of that story, but yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you never know. I mean, yeah, at that age, you're just usually trying to, like, hyper-focus on your issues.
That part.
And anybody else that has issues is just, like, non-existent, you know?
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah, different. Okay, so as you know, this is Thursday Therapies. It's a discussion on mental health, which I love that you have, you know, a lot to talk about. You know, mental health is wild, you know, but
I love talking about it. Like, I've been talking about it.
To talk about it and to let other people know that, you know, it's okay to talk about your mental health, and everybody, you know, is dealing with something, and, you know, there's help out there. So I just want to get your outlook on mental health and see where you're at.
Yeah. I don't know. I seem to be a little more strange than others when it comes to talking about mental health, because I actually like it. I like the exploration of self that comes with it.
Right.
I talk about depression, suicide on stage with my work. I'm a spoken word poet.
Right.
And I do it gladly because, like, the process of that examination has led to so much healing for me.
Absolutely. That's why I have Thursday Therapies. It just does. It's just talking about it, and, you know, like, I talk about a little bit of my issues on here also, you know, and it's very therapeutic to me, and it just to be able to hopefully connect with somebody in the audience, and they're like, you know, okay, if she's doing it, then I can do it, or like, if he's doing it, then I can do it, you know, I can get the help, at least take that first step, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, it's amazing how many times I get off stage after doing stories of my depression, and it's not always, it's usually in a whisper that someone will come up to me and go like, hey, you know, I've gone through, or I have a brother who's gone through, or, you know, a cousin, etc. Like,
it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
The statistic is 1 in 3 people, I believe it's 1 in 3, if not 1 in 4, will experience depression in some way, shape, or form throughout their lives. Right. And just that alone, never mind suicidality, never mind all of that stuff, that fact alone, why aren't we talking about it?
Exactly. You know, people are just, a lot of people don't even know how to identify it, really.
Yeah, and that's been such a key part too.
Very.
So I've been doing self-study with myself since I was 15 years old, like an active, like, watching my symptoms and everything since I was 15. Nobody told me to do it. Right. I just started doing it because it was after an attempt, and it was like the week after, I think. I was just like, I can't keep doing this. So I literally wrote myself a contract and was like, okay, if we're doing this, then you have a year to figure yours out and get yourself right. So I wouldn't suggest doing that for everyone. It's not like a good solution. It's not a healthy solution. In that the contract I wrote was, if at the end of the year I haven't done these things, then I'm just gonna. Oh wow. Yeah. So that part not healthy. Setting goals for the future, do that.
No, that's really deep, and for you to be able to even articulate that at 15. I mean, 15 is still a young age.
15? No, you know? I mean, like, at around 11 years old was, like I said, my first attempt, and it wasn't like, even at 11, I had a process for how I even went about that. Like, I gave myself a month of, do I still feel this way? And like, is this really the step I want to take? Because at 11, roll the clock even further back. So 5 years old, just about, my childhood friend who used to spend nights over at my house, Ashley Barron, is murdered by her father. Her brother was also murdered. Her mother murdered. You could look him up. He's a serial killer, Jack Barron.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I had an early exposure to death.
Yeah.
And didn't have any support in dealing with that. There was no therapy.
Yeah, no.
Parents didn't talk to me about it. I didn't even understand fully what death was. So I went to her viewing, and I snuck in because my mom had left me with a friend, and I snuck in. And I saw her laid out on the viewing. I didn't even understand what that was. So I walk up to the first adult I see. I go, "When's she waking up so we can play?" And then he started crying. And I'm like, "What's going on?" Like, what?
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah. So the 2 weeks after that, I would wake up in the middle of the night and wonder if people were watching me sleep.
Oh, my God.
So I didn't even have a concept of death. And then eventually I figured out like what death is just by watching media and such.
Right.
And so at 11, when I first attempted, I knew the seriousness of like the decision I was making.
Wow.
And I went, okay, we're going to give it a month. And if things are still lined up like this after a month, then I'm going to do it. But if I do it, I want it to be final. So I gave myself a very brutal one way of leaving this world. I don't want to like trigger anybody, so I'm not going to go into the details on that. But it's very brutal, very messy, and very finite if I were to make that step.
Right.
So all that to say, like, I've been very methodical about every decision around death at that point.
Wow.
And that's oddly helped me a lot. Yeah.
Wow. You know, I'm just thinking back of when I was that age too, and those were tough years.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't have to experience something that you experienced. You know, I did experience other things, but nothing to that extent. And to not be able to have somebody to explain that to you makes it all the worse. Like it's just very scary. Like I couldn't imagine not being able to tell my daughter right now, she's 8, what's going on if something like that were to happen. You know, I want to be able to give her as much accurate information for her age, for her to be able to, you know, and then reach out and get help.
And there's so much else that happened around that time too. So like we lived in South Sac in like back when it was like Bloods, Crips, like everybody all around.
Yeah.
And like I lived on a dividing line between 2 gangs. I was too young to remember the names of all that stuff.
Right.
But so living in that world at the same time.
Yeah.
And then for instance, we had a friend who was friends with both sides of the gang.
Oh, wow.
And he ended up getting killed while things were starting to de-escalate. So they reported it as a suicide, despite the fact that he was shot in the back of the head, in the back of a gas station. So like there were a lot of experiences with death. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
No, that's
So
deep.
like, and there's more death. I did the breakdown a few days ago because I was like, how did I get here?
Right.
Like,
Right. You try to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, especially as an adult. Like, but there's just so
it
much
averages out to
trauma.
like just under every 3 years. If you average it out, since I was 5 years old, I've lost somebody.
Wow. Yeah.
So like a lot of experience with death. So it's also led to, because I chose to, a lot of self-processing, which led up to when I was 15 years old to get all the way back to that point.
Yeah.
Me going, I can't keep doing this realistically. Like I need to start doing something, which is where that contract came from. And then there were a few more attempts over the years. There was that time in 2010 where I attempted. And then I went 4 years, and that was the longest I'd ever gone. Wow. And the last attempt I did was 10 years ago. Wow. 11 now. Wow. That was after I lost my job at Apple, and I lost my apartment. The person I was dating ghosted on me, the whole deal. And I attempted, and I remember, though, the moment after I attempted, I sat there, and I don't know why, I just felt like that was the last time.
Yeah.
You know, where I was like, okay, I think it's out of my system, and I can't tell you why I felt like that, but it's been 10 years. This is the longest time I've ever gone without even having ideation of anything.
Well, thank God you're here. I
You know.
mean, I'm glad you're here, you
Yeah.
know, and taking the next steps to, you know, really manage your mental health, you know, in all areas, you know, and to study the mind is very eye-opening, you know, because then it's just like, that's why that's happening. Oh, that's why, you know, that's why I'm just like,
It's been a huge part of my healing.
It's definitely, it was for me too, because I was like trying to figure out why am I so dysfunctional? Like, what's going on with me? You know, like, wow. But I'm glad you shared that. You know, I'm glad you're here with us today. Thank you so much. Wow, that's really deep.
I tell the story and I get different reactions to it, and I've gotten different reactions over the years. One of the reactions I used to get was like, "We don't want to hear that. Shut up." I got that a lot when I first started talking about my depression around like 20.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry
look,
for that.
that
happened to
Here's the
you.
thing, though. We all have our own struggles,
We
right?
do.
And like,
Some
I don't.
people don't have enough capacity to take. Yeah.
And that in and of itself, I've noticed, tends to be a weakness within them.
Right.
An insecurity within them,
Yeah.
right? The fact that you haven't had the opportunity to process any of this stuff. So like, I have a lot of patience for people who are rude, who don't understand, because that's the core of it.
Right.
If you understood, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
And I hope you never understand to a certain extent.
Right. It's heavy.
You know, it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's
like,
heavy
no kid should have to process what I went through.
at
but
all, you know.
I mean, there are kids right now in our world who are processing far worse.
Right.
You look at Gaza.
I mean, it's all bad.
Right?
For a child's mind to be able to go through any of this,
You know?
it's all bad. I don't think there's any really level playing. You know, it's all bad for you to be able to live through that and have to cope through that. You know, but without getting the necessary help.
Yeah.
You know, we're all out here on our own trying to figure it out.
That part. So like, I tell the stories, and like, originally it was like, oh, shut up, you know, we don't want to hear it. Over time, as I noticed society started talking about, you know, mental health a little more, it's gotten to a point where I don't hear that anymore. What I hear is people going like, thank you for talking about that.
Absolutely.
And like, hey, I've seen your posts about, you know, mental health or this and that, and, you know, I didn't comment on it, I didn't like it or anything like that, but like, I read it and it hit me, and I'm like,
and that's where a lot of people are right now. I think they're just scared to really comment and put what they feel about it out there right now, because they just really don't know. A lot of people just really don't know what mental health, you know, all the issues and what mental health is. You know, people just think that, oh, you got to toughen up and live through life. But no, if these things are happening to you, it's okay to get help. You know, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to share your experiences about it.
100%. And like, it's when I tell my story, it's not me trying to boo-hoo or get sympathy or anything. It's like kind of what you said before, like, I've grown this much, so can you.
Right.
You know, it's never about like attention seeking, other than getting more attention around mental health discussion.
Exactly. No, exactly. No, because it's just like, if I can do this, I want it to reach as many people as possible, because I want to be able to help through my experiences.
That part.
You know,
100%.
I want other people to get the help, because I know that, you know, a lot of people are suffering on the inside alone.
Yeah. And like, that's why I'm always grateful and always happy to talk about it, especially on a beautiful podcast like this.
Absolutely. So I think you just talked about a lot. You're on point already. I'm just like, you know, so really was just, when did you become aware of mental health, and how old were you? Like,
so like,
back then, I mean, we didn't know it was considered mental health, but, you know, we all had feelings.
Yeah, and like, the model for what mental health was, and to a certain extent still the model that exists, is like, you know, if you have mental health issues, you must be steps away from cracking and pulling out the knife and chasing people down, or you're to put it frankly, the perception from some people is like, oh, you have depression, that means you're just a whiny little bitch.
Right.
And it's like, you know, just crying in the corner. And I'll tell you, my experience of major depression, at those lowest moments where I finally go, you know what, I'm done, I feel nothing.
Right.
It's not sadness, all those tears, all that stuff, that's long gone. It's not a question anymore of like, do I want to kick it around? That's why I found I don't contact people. Right. You know, when people go, why didn't such and so call me? There was no one to call. Right. I made up my mind. And I'm just following through on like, this is the solution I found. Wow. So like, when we say check in on your strong friends, it has to be before the incident.
Right.
And this is not to blame anybody who's had any kind of like, loss of a friend due to this stuff, because that's not your fault. That's not on you.
Right.
The choices that people make are the choices people make, and I need to express that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like for me, I've owned every time I do that.
Wow.
That is my choice. That is not because somebody pissed me off. That is not because, society hates me. It's because I wanted to go. And it's important to own that, because it allows me to, in that moment, go, do I really want to go?
Right.
Instead of going, do they really not want me here?
Right.
Because the answer to that question is always going to be yes, because in my head I have a whole narrative about it.
And that's the harsh reality of mental health, is because people are struggling with these decisions on a daily basis. It's not something, like you said, it's been 10 years for you and you've been working on it, but it's a fucking struggle.
Yeah.
It is a struggle.
It is.
Those down moments, like seriously, there's if you're not working on managing it or getting the necessary help to manage it, those feelings inside are harsh.
Yeah.
They're detrimental to people's well-being, and that's what happens. Some people just, they do it. They succeed in their mission and doing that, and that's a dark place to be.
Yeah, no.
That's a scary, dark place to be, and people just really. I don't like to take it lightly, but people do. They don't really understand how deep that is, for other people. And check on your strong friends. Just because you think they're strong enough, those are the ones that are suffering inside the most.
Yeah, no. I've found frequently that the people who project the most strength are the ones who hurt the most.
Exactly.
And that's not just a cute saying. That's like legit.
It's legit. I feel the same way. Like, nobody checks on me, because on the outside I just look like I'm all put together, but on the inside there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of there's a lot of thoughts and dark places that I visit from time to time. Yeah. And even though I'm still getting the help that that I need in managing it and doing, I got a lot of tools in my tool belt to help me, it still doesn't go away.
Yeah, and I've got my own answer to why I do that, but why do you do that?
Why do I go to the dark place?
I mean, like, project the happiness and the joy and all of that.
I want to be happy. I do want to be happy. I want to be able to help other people. I want, I really definitely feel I have a loving heart. I love myself. Some days I don't, but I definitely want to be able to project that onto other people, because there's so many people out there hurting. Yeah. There are so many people in a world where there's so much hate and bad things going on. I don't want to be adding to that part. Even though I feel bad on the inside, I don't want to be adding to the negativity. I want people to feel good. If somebody's walking by me, I want to give a smile or a hello, and be kind. We need more people to be kind, because so many people are hurting.
And like, if we accept the fact that like pain is a part of our existence, in some form or another, like, why wouldn't we be more kind to each other?
Right.
Why wouldn't we be more open to hearing each other out when we're hurting? Yeah. I feel you so much when you talk about wanting to because people are hurting, not want to put your hurt onto them.
Right.
That's the interpretation
exactly.
I got. And like, that's the core of where I come from too, is even at my worst points of depression, one of my biggest concerns is I don't ever want to pass this off to somebody else. Right. I don't want to.
It feels so bad. Like, I wouldn't ever want anybody to feel the way I feel on the inside.
Yeah, and like so doing poetry, I've had poems that I've done at slams. I had a poem that I did at a slam where I go through the suicide process from like start to finish, and I'm brutally honest about it. And the poem at the end, instead of me living, I die. Wow. I succumb to it. And I did that in Berkeley, I believe, at the Starry Plow. Don't quote me on that. Memory issues again. But I did that at a slam, and the host said, I've never seen scores like this. I don't remember the fifth score, but the 4 other scores from the judges went like this. It went 2, 5, 7, 9. 2 is like, it goes from a 1 to a 10 for each judge. And first of all, if you do a poem at all in a slam, you get a 4 minimum. So what that told me was somebody felt my work, probably has experience with it, and went, wow, that's a 9.
Definitely.
7 was like, okay, that's cool. That's a nice poem. 5 and 2 get into like, I probably triggered them. They may have experience with it, may have lost a friend or themselves almost to this condition, and I might have really accidentally set them off.
Right.
And that's something that I never want to do with my work or my story.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in my lowest moments, I always try to be mindful of that too,
Right.
of like, who am I opening up to,
Right.
and can they emotionally handle this conversation?
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who will try and step up, but they're not in the right place.
Yeah.
And they're not the right person.
And this is like how they receive the information
Yeah,
also, you
yeah.
know, because what you're putting out there for you is therapeutic, and for a lot of people it would be, but for some people it's detrimental.
Yeah.
You know, and it, like you said, it triggers certain things in them that they're not ready to deal with yet.
Yeah. And even in just like outside of poetry, like in conversations, there are people who will feel like they're the person you should go to,
Right.
who aren't ready to have those deep conversations
Right.
with you.
Right.
And it's, for me, learning how to recognize who those people are.
Yeah.
Not so I can cut them out of my life, but so I can like measure how I discuss things around them.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you get into a mental health discussion where you're talking about your hurt and your pain that you're feeling right now with someone who doesn't know how to help you through that process,
Right.
then it's like going to a therapist who hasn't really been trained,
Exactly.
you know, and
Exactly.
they're going to give you some bad advice, or
Right.
they're going to, even worse, like just kind of go, wow, that sucks.
Right, and there's no help there at all.
Yeah.
It's time to shop around for a new therapist.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had, oh my God, my experiences in therapy.
Yeah, no, I always stress that on here too. If somebody's not, if you feel in your gut that it's not
Period.
working, please ask for a referral, look for another therapist, go do another group, ask your doctor or something, do whatever you need to do, but definitely shop around.
Yeah.
If it's not, and everybody's not a fit. Everybody's not going to be a fit.
Totally.
Everybody's
I understand 100% why some people get very jaded on therapy. I got jaded on therapy for a while. I had a long string of terrible therapists.
Yeah.
So 2010, when I attempt, I'm at Sac State when I was working for a newspaper, and they saw my suicide note that I was going to leave. And they sent me to the counselor. And the counselor there, I will never forget, the first 30 minutes of talking to her, she was demanding that I had done drugs. She was like, so what drugs have you done?
Whoa.
No, but you can be honest here. Like, this is an open space. You can go ahead and open up. You know, weed is a drug.
Oh,
Yeah, alcohol is also a drug. Did you know that? You can open up to me about these things. And I'm sitting there going like, I literally, like, I drink, but that's it. Like, I don't do weed. I've never done anything like that. And at the time I hadn't. Like, I've done LSD since and other stuff. But when I say other stuff, I mean weed, nothing like hard.
Okay.
But so it's 30 minutes of that. And then she finally goes, well, how have you been coping? And I went, I just tried to kill myself. Why am I here? So I walked out.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and I'll never forget this. I go to the front, and they couldn't do prescriptions because it was at the time at Sac State. I don't think they could do like prescriptions, but they had sample packs.
Wow.
They gave me like a drug deal, a brown bag full of Lexapro sample
Samples.
packs.
Oh my God.
No guidance on how to use them. Just told me, take one of these a day.
Oh, that was in the beginning stage.
Yeah. And so my first time ever taking these meds was just like, I think it was 20 milligrams that they started me on. I can't even tell you the dosage. They just told me to take a pill. And it was that experience of like, I felt static, and then I turned suicidal again. And I went,
Yeah.
Nope.
Forget that. Wow. And there was never even any really doctor advisory or anything. Like
nothing.
Yeah,
I
wow.
thankfully, when I went back to college, I hit up the president's office. I was like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like they assured me that the processes were very different now.
Yeah.
So
it
like,
had to
we're
because
cool.
I went to Sac State and got
Yeah.
help there also. That's when I first got my first, mental health. I mean, I've been in therapy and different things my whole life. They've been trying to put me on Prozac since I was 12.
Yeah.
But that's when I did go to Sac State to the same place, and that's when I did get prescribed.
Yeah.
My very first medication was Lexapro.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yeah, at Sac State, and I was, this was, how old was I? 30 something. But,
How'd that go for you?
It went good. It worked out. It
Yeah.
worked out well. I was so drained and, depressed, and like I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I don't know how I was surviving,
Wow.
but there was a lot going on in my life at that time, and I'm like, something needs to give, like something needs to happen. And so that's when I was like, because all my life I was like, I'm not taking any medications. You know, my mom was so against taking medications, so I really never took medications, and I was able to, you know, cope with things and work my way through it, like toughen up, you know, you'll get through it, you know. Yeah. But at this point I was like at my breaking point, and I needed something, and I needed help, and it helped for the time being. Yeah. You know, it did. It was a much lower dose, but it did help for the time being. Yeah.
And that's where we get into, like, with medication, there's so many different factors that go into it. Right. Like your body chemistry can change how you respond 100%. To things. On top of that, the dosage that you get can make a huge difference. 100%. Like if it's too low of a dose, right. It might not work. If it's too high of a dose, it might mess you up. Right. Like it's that sweet spot that they need to find, but sometimes that journey's hard.
It's very hard, and then you have to wait. You have to take it a certain amount of time for it to actually kick in your system to see if it's even going to be a fit, and that's the hard part because people are up and down. Their emotions are a roller coaster at that point, and it's just like, do I want to continue to trying out these medications, you know, because it takes months to figure it out.
Yeah, like it can take, for those who don't know, like a month to 2 months, possibly even longer for antidepressants to start really working in your body, because your body needs to adjust to it, and also it needs to like level out, so that leveling out process takes time. Yeah.
And then it's just not medication though. I mean, in order to level it out, you have to change your lifestyle. If you're still doing, you know, in traumatic events and you know, doing a whole lot of other things that you shouldn't be doing, it's, you know, then you're going to continue to stay in that chaotic stage, you know. You have to really switch up your whole life and do things different. Like, are you drinking 10 cups of coffee a day? Then you're going to probably have a little anxiety. Your heart, you know, your whole system's going to be unregulated.
No,
it's going to be all over the place.
100%. So. Like, meds don't work by themselves because all that's doing is just treating the physiological part of the problem. Right. If you have a whole, like, personal life thing, like exactly what you were just talking about, like if your personal life hasn't changed and you're still going to environments that are stressful and treat you like dog crap, like
and then you eat, like I said, drink 10 cups of coffee, you drink Pepsi, don't drink any water.
It's trying to level out, and you keep going.
Right, and it's just like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You know, a lot of people don't know that either. Yeah. You know, they just think they're going to take a pill and everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
So I've done Lexapro, Celexa even, Cymbalta, a number of different meds, and it's always, you know, some form of the process I described earlier.
Definitely takes a long time.
And are you still, not to jump into your person, but like, are you still on Lexapro?
I'm not. Actually, I've been off of all my medications and clean and sober from everything for almost a year and a half now.
That's
beautiful.
I
was just like, I was so stressed out trying to get, because I had lost my job and then lost my insurance, couldn't get the pills, and then I was like in a chaotic stage. You know, my mom had passed away, so I was up and down, and you know, I was drinking and partying then anyways, and I'm just like, by the time it was time for me to get off, I'm like, I'm stressing out more trying to get to these services to get this medication that I shouldn't even be taking it because it's not working, because I'm taking other substances with it, so it's pointless. So I just stopped everything at once, and it's just like, I don't recommend that for anybody. I don't recommend that. You know, advise your doctor, but that is what I did, and it was difficult. It was very difficult, but I feel 100% better. Like I do. You know, days are still challenging, but I don't need any substances to help me get through the day. You know, just some good food and water and exercise, some sunlight is all I've been doing, you know, and therapy and, you know, community, which has been really good.
Yeah, and that's really like the end goal of all those therapeutic things, like meds and such. It's to get you to a point where you don't need the med necessarily. In some circumstances, if you're dealing with like psychotic disorders, that's different. Definitely. But like when we're talking about depression, anxiety, and all of this, the goal can be to eventually not be on your meds. Right. And then like an important distinction I got in one of my psychology classes was like, grief and depression are two very different things.
Very different.
You know, if you, for instance, I lost my dad a few years ago. I lost my brother about 8 years ago. Yeah. And if you gave me depression meds for that, it would literally do nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely.
Because the experience physiologically and also socially and also emotionally, everything is completely different.
It is definitely
because
different.
Depression, and I cannot stress this enough, is not sadness. Right. Like it can involve sadness as a component. Right. But it's not sadness. Right. Yeah. And I just need to express that point because it's so often misunderstood and it leads to so much harm. Right. With what we were talking about before, with like the whiny little bitch narrative. Right.
Meds. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. This is a great conversation for people to watch and, you know, understand and hopefully, you know, get get some help.
Yeah,
Get some help. I have some questions for you.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
sorry,
you already hit a lot of them. Like, you know, we talked about how young you were when you knew about mental health issues. How did your family really deal with it? In your home.
Here's the thing. As a kid, I lived in a house where we didn't talk about mental health. Mm-hmm. My parents are both, well, my dad passed, but still very Catholic. Mm-hmm. My mom ran every music group for the church that I had growing up. My dad would sing along with her. So, total side note, I used to sneak out of church, and I had church timed because Catholic masses tend to be very regimented. So about 45 minutes into mass, you could come back in and be in line to take the host in the Eucharist. So my mom would see me, you know, and go like, "Oh, my son's been in
the whole time."
But so very Catholic. The solution was prayer. And that's not a legitimate solution for issues like this, right? And it's kind of I don't know. I'll go into it. I feel like using prayer as the only solution is a denial of what God made, if you want to approach it from a Christian perspective. Mm-hmm. God made me like this. Right. There's a reason why I'm like this. Yeah. For this solution to only be fixed with prayer is to deny the fact that you were also made by God, right, and put here to help people. Interesting. I had a priest who once said, "We are the blessing." You know, it's not that you have to pray to God in order to get blessed. We are the blessing. Yeah. When you get helped by someone, it's not God reaching down telling them to help you. It's God having made them, it's God having made you, and you two connecting in that moment and being God's blessing. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And that in and of itself, like when you pray, it is setting good intentions, but without actual action, you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you got to put the footwork in.
Yeah. 100%. And so my household, things were solved through prayer and not discussion.
And that's a lot of households still.
Yeah,
still
still
a lot of households.
Absolutely. So my parents and I through that, because of that, I got really good at hiding all of this stuff. Yeah. My parents didn't even know I attempted until I was 23, and I had written an article about suicide and my experience with it for the State Hornet at Sac State. Oh, and they happened to see it. I didn't show it to them. Yeah. So, I had gotten really good at hiding it because in my house also there was this like, don't cause problems. Right. And if you express yourself to a certain extent, you're causing problems. Wow. Which is something I'm still kind of struggling with. Yeah, no. Processing.
And that's hard because you have all this stuff going for a child's mind. You have all this stuff going on, you know, that you had to go through and witness, and you can't even talk about it. And that's like this, your own jail cell. You're in your own, you're in your own mental, and it's a war zone in there because you got all these emotions and everything going on in your mind, and you don't even know what to do with them.
That part. And at school, I got into a lot of fights on the way to school. Like I fought everybody I could possibly fight.
I was a fighter too.
I
got in a lot of fights too.
Because when you come from trauma, what do you expect? These kids are going to act out. Right. And also I was defending myself at the time from other people. Yeah. But so I don't think did I break down? No, I didn't. Okay. So check this out. So South Sac is where I lived from, I think around 7 years old, up until 7. I was born in Detroit, moved there 2 years old to South Sac. And then from 2 years old to 7, I lived in South Sac. After that, my dad got lucky. He got a job out in New Hampshire. Which is like, have you ever been to New Hampshire, seen anybody from New Hampshire? No. It is a forest full of white people. Like no Cuban culture, no Mexican culture, nothing to represent me. My Spanish teacher in middle school pronounced the H. Like, hola. So went from South Sac gangs, fighting, to what was essentially the way that they fought was social ostracization. So my first week, this kid was like picking on me, bullying me, and I beat the ever-loving shit out of him. Right. And never saw him again. I'm assuming his parents moved him from the school. The school didn't know how to handle it. They pulled me out of class, and there was a teacher next to him. She was like, apologize to him, and I went, fuck you, and I walked back in. Right. Nothing. No call to my parents.
Your parents never knew at all?
Never knew. School never called them. They didn't know what to do with me. And I was this angry, pissed off kid. And that's the thing that I really reflect back on is like how many adults saw me and didn't do anything.
Out. Yeah.
You know, and how much harm that caused me.
At school, yeah, I mean, they're supposed to, I mean, you would think they're supposed to say,
you know,
then you need help. Like, it doesn't make sense, but wow.
So the thing that actually like really started making change for me was a program that I went into just voluntarily because it got me 3 days out of school. Okay. That was the sole reason I chose. Right?
I would have definitely done the same thing.
It was governor at the time, Jean Shaheen, who's currently a senator, I believe, who's retiring actually in 2026. I hope New Hampshire finds a good Democrat to replace her. But she had put up a program that was a peer mediator program where they wanted to train kids to be able to sit down and have a kid who's a mediator with two kids who have a problem with each other so they could talk it out. Okay. And train this person how to be like an actual mediator with an adult outside to make sure nothing jumps off or anything weird.
Right. Everybody's just throwing blows inside.
Yeah. So it was 3 days of training. Okay. And I took it just so I could get out of class and not be there. And it was beautiful. Like, it taught me so much about looking into myself and trying to figure out like what my problem is. Right. And on top of that, I'd been writing poetry since before my first attempt. And I didn't realize I was writing poetry. I was just trying to figure out what was going on in my head. Right. And my brother Frank, who passed 8 years ago, he was the one who said like, "Hey, you know you're writing poetry, right?" Wow. And I was like, "Oh, sure, whatever the hell that means." Right. And Frank, being the brother that he is, he did the big brother thing of like, "I know about this subject. Here's everything on this subject." And like handed me a stack of books. Oh. And me being the bratty little brother, I took all those books and went, "Thanks, man." Threw them in a corner, didn't read them until later. But like, it was through that peer mediator program, which I actually like got a certificate for in the whole deal, and I got to do it too. Yeah. Like, they didn't just have us do the training and then nothing. It was through that program that so much change came in my life, because that's where I started to analyze myself. Yeah. And then when I was 15 and we moved back to, I think I was 14 when we moved back to California, to Folsom, I carried that with me, that training and that mentality. Yeah. And that's where, when I did that contract with myself, part of that was me mediating myself and going like, okay, realistically, like I said, if we're going to do this, we need to start figuring some shit out. Yeah.
You had to figure it out all on your own.
On my own.
And that's how a lot of these, I mean, all of us really, even as adults, I mean, we're all just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
And I got lucky.
Just trying to figure it out.
I can't imagine if I didn't run into that peer mediator program in middle school.
It could have been a whole lot different.
If Jean Shaheen didn't happen to go like, you know, it'd be a good idea for our students.
Wow.
A social program that could teach students how to manage each other.
Wow. Wow. Definitely.
You know, I'd be dead. Yeah. Legitimately, I'd be dead.
Yeah, that's different. That's definitely deep. It is like one given thing, you know, can change your whole life.
Entirely. Your whole mindset. Like, I went from hating the world, blaming myself, all that stuff, to going like, oh, all right, so like, what's the problem?
Right.
Like,
who's the
what can we fix and what can't we fix?
Nice.
You know.
Wow, that's good training.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like the world's understanding on mental health has changed since you first became aware of mental health? Has it changed any, or?
I feel like half the world has grown and the other half has not.
I think so.
And the other half has gone very much, hey, fuck this whole idea of mental health. Right. You look at, I mean, our current administration, right? Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy with his plan to put people in camps who are on. I mean, they want to put people in camps for a number of reasons: for being queer, for being Mexican, for taking SSRIs, like having mental health issues. Yeah. You know what I mean? like, on a very sarcastic note, like, why is their solution always just a concentration camp? Anyway, it's so I feel like that half of the world, not even, that's giving them so much credit. It's not half. It's like a third of our country has very much adamantly stood against it and any principle of mental health, despite the fact that they need it so badly. And the other 2/3 have opened up a lot more. Yeah, I have yet to be told to shut up about talking about mental health
Yeah.
since I was like probably 28.
Yeah.
And I'm 37.
I think a lot has changed.
Yeah.
Still have a lot of, a lot to go in getting awareness out there and just people to trust, trust getting the help. But I definitely think it has changed, because I remember them, like I said, they tried to put me on Prozac since I was 12 and different things. But I was just considered the problem child, right?
Yeah,
they're just acting out, right?
And they never ask, like, why are you the problem
What's wrong?
child?
Are you okay? No, no.
It's so important as parents to like go, why are my kids acting like this?
Exactly. If something's off, something's off. If you know something's off, something's off.
If your kid is too quiet and they used to be loud, what happened? If they're too loud and they used to be quiet, what happened?
But at the same time, I'm just like, I know my mom raised me the best way she could with what she got because she has her own shit. She went through the same shit, I don't know what she endured as a child, but I know that she carried a lot of it with her.
That is such a huge component too of my healing journey. Is like, you had like teenage years resented my parents.
Oh yeah.
Part of that healing journey though was looking back and going like, my mom and my dad, despite all the things I've said so far, I could safely say they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
My dad was a refugee to this country from Cuba.
Yeah.
After the revolution, before the Cuban Missile Crisis. Wow. It was part of, if you ever want to look it up, Operation Pedro Pan is the unofficial name. It was a cooperation between the Catholic Church, the American government, and the Cuban government. And basically it was, we're unstable right now. So go ahead and we'll take your kids and we'll educate them, send them back. With like a wink to the parents of like, we're not sending them back.
Right. Wow.
So, that's what my dad and his sister came in on with no parents with them. They got adopted to a foster home. My dad was the last kid chosen in these group homes that they kept, where it was literally like you would sleep shoulder to shoulder in the bedroom, and he had to sleep in the kitchen because there were too many kids.
Oh my God.
Like on the floor.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And we do forget that we do forget that a lot of the time when we are like, our parents were shitty. Our parents did the best they could with what they had. I mean, there are some shitty parents out there.
100%.
There are, but I know my mom, she was a hard-working woman, and she did the best she could with what she had.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And, so, and it's always important to remember, like, even if your parents are shitty, that's not a reflection of you as a kid, no matter what they say to you.
Right.
Because so often we internalize that as like, I must have just been a rough kid. I must have been a bad kid. And it's like, there's so many reasons for why you're a bad kid that go unexamined. And I hope you're examining that if you're watching this, if you feel that way.
Right.
But also, like, you look at your parents, those bad parents, where did they come from?
Right.
How do we find not forgiveness in terms of like letting them back into your life and letting them do all this stuff, but forgiveness for the person that they were.
Right.
Because they came from a whole situation that taught them to do that.
Right. And a lot of the times they don't express that or tell their kids that. They hold it in, and that's suffering on the inside, and you don't have to suffer on the inside. You can get the help. Get help.
And that's huge. And honestly, like, if you're trying to be a good parent and you're able to open up about that stuff to your kids, that is such a healing thing.
That is such a healing
thing. It opens up such a conversation, especially if you allow your kids afterwards to go, hey, you've done some stuff too. Can we talk about that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my mom recently has been incredible about those conversations.
That's good. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was rough in the past because there was a lot of, I don't remember that. And it's like, I understand, right? There's possibly a lot of guilt, possibly a lot of hurt that you were going through at the time as well.
Right.
Because there was a lot of stuff that we went through as a family.
Yeah.
But I think she's learned that, like, holding that stuff in, like you were saying, doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help us heal, doesn't help us come back together.
Right.
And so it was specifically like after my dad passed that it feels like she started to go like, oh, okay, I should probably like connect with my kids and learn who they are a little more.
Yeah.
Because my dad was, and I don't think she like chose him to do this. He very much chose to be the person who steps in front, when we have a disagreement. Like, I remember he told us once, if it's between you or her, I'm choosing her every time, no matter what.
Wow.
And as a kid, that fucked me up.
Yeah.
which is, I don't know how we're doing on time, but or if there's like a time limit. Okay, so a hard part of losing my dad is that when you lose someone, this is a psychological concept that I got introduced to because of a guy on YouTube named Dr. Mick. Dr. Mick, fantastic. What he does is he plays video games, and he'll pause the game in the narrative so he could talk about psychological concepts that are related to like the scene that's going on. It's a beautiful way of like reaching younger audiences. And I watch him, and he,
of course it's in a game,
you know, exactly, because like there's all this storytelling,
right.
and like what's a great medium to reach out to the youth,
yeah.
to talk about mental health. So and he's a trained psychologist for 10 years, I believe. So what he talked about is when someone dies, obviously you have no access to this person.
Right.
You're left with a snapshot of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's everything that you've had before, that you've had problems with them, good things you've had, all of that is frozen.
Right.
And so it's hard because you might have the urge to reach out to people around that person and go, what were they thinking?
Right.
But that'll never satisfy you.
Never. So many unanswered questions.
So many unanswered questions. Because even if I go to my mom to ask how my dad felt, she's going to give me her interpretation of how he felt. Yeah. And the key is not, even if you knew how he felt, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's how do you feel?
Right.
We look
only
to,
you could tell how you feel. Nobody else can,
exactly.
can do that for you.
And so often we go to like external points to try and get an internal perspective on things. And if you're truly confused, that's useful. Like therapy is useful for that.
Yeah.
But in the end, you have to make a decision about your relationship with your dad after he passes, or your mom after she passes.
Definitely.
You know.
And and that's what a lot of people do, is they hold on to those negative, you know, what happened in the past, and continue out the rest of their life hating that part of it, when you don't have to. You know, that stuff happened in the past. It was in the past. Leave it back there. Work it out. You know, and move forward
as much as you can. And like, I mean, I guess what's your process for moving forward?
I just, you know, I'm educating myself and knowing that my mom, you know, like I said, I know she was a hard worker, and she loved us kids and did the best she could. You know, our relationship, we butted heads a lot, and we were very similar in a lot of ways. And I'm just knowing that and realizing that, and just learning to appreciate, you know, how much she did try her best, you know, with who she was as a human being. You know, and we're all human. We're all human, and I have to keep reminding myself that, you know, we're all human. We all go through shit. She carried into her, you know, till her death. She carried a lot of things with her that she never discussed, and I know that. I felt that from her. You know, being the type of person I am, I really felt that. And for me, I'm just like, we need to work on this. We need therapy. We need to get the help. Come on, let's do it together. But we just butted heads. She would never meet me there, and I'm just like, let's work through it. And there was a lot of stuff that she was afraid to work through. Yeah. So a lot of people bring that with them in life, and that's what's hindering them. They're suffering on the inside.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I know that I definitely, because grief is not a one-time process. Right. It's constant.
Right.
And especially the closer that someone was to you, of course, like, it's a lifelong, you know, recurrence of grief feelings. When those feelings hit you, right, in the moment, and like maybe you experience, I know for me, I experienced like some anger towards my dad in those moments. Yeah. Like, how do you in those moments process it?
For me, I'm just like, I really just try to look at the part, like I try to look at myself. And who I am as a mother, because I'm a mother myself, and I'm just like, I fucked up. I did some fucked up things, you know. I'm not a perfect parent, and I just kind of try to flip it like that, like, you know, my mom didn't have the resources, but then sometimes I'm like, she could have, you know. I was there to help her, but I feel like she was just afraid. And I'm like, I get angry because I'm like, why didn't she always take me up on the help, and you know. And a lot of people are just stuck in that way, and that's what depression can do for a person, you know. It's scary. It's scary to want to be able to work on those types of things, like mental health. And she was in denial a lot of things, so it's very difficult to have any conversation with her about that. So I was angry about that too sometimes, but you know, I just kind of look at myself, and I'm like, I'm a parent too. You know, what things do I do for my kids, and how do I, you know, I try to look and see how do I make them feel, and just try to do better.
Yeah, no, and that's, I think you really hit on like a key part of like, again, that internal process, where you're going like, okay, I have all these feelings about someone who I have zero access to.
Zero, yeah.
So like, how am I acting in this moment?
Right.
Like, what am I choosing to do?
Right.
Is this anger serving me?
No, and it normally isn't, and it passes. Before I'd be angry for a while, when she was still here, I'd be angry, and just like whatever.
And then there's the guilt about feeling angry,
right?
Because we tend to honor the dead, and
right.
Don't speak negatively.
Exactly.
And
exactly. But now it's just like, I think that time passes a lot sooner than Like sometimes I could just dwell on it for a time, but like I'm just trying to use all my tools in my toolbox to get myself out of my own mind and focus on better days.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes me think of, so we had a memorial recently for a poet who passed, Al.
Yes, rest in peace. I was there. It was, yes.
And I got asked to do a poem at a fundraiser for the family for funeral expenses, and I was asked to do a poem that was positive and happy, and I just thought back to like, I don't know, when I was going through my brother and my father specifically, I would have these people who would come up to me and offer me very happy things, and it just rang so hollow, even though they were true. Like I didn't believe that they were lying to me, but it just rang so hollow. Right. What really hit me was someone talking about their experience with grief and how pissed off they were at their partner for the choice that they had made to leave this world. And I was like, I connect with that so much. And my father died of pancreatic cancer. My brother Frank died in a car crash. So they didn't choose these things, but that anger, that we get told to suppress because we're told to honor people and be very demure, in the process, and we're expected to be perfect. Right. And I don't know, a rule I've come up with is the first month after somebody passes significant to someone who's in my life, it's not a free pass in that you could say whatever you want to me, but the forgiveness is.
For me, I'm just like, fuck that. No, feel those feelings.
Exactly.
Because they're feelings.
Exactly.
Anger is a feeling. You're feeling. If that's how you feel it. Feel it out. And then move past it.
That part, and that's why I did.
But there's no timeline. But don't go around for the next couple of years being an asshole.
Yeah, asshole. There's a huge difference, right? You're still responsible for your words and what you say, but at the same time, I'm gonna forgive you like that.
Right.
Because what am I holding on to, right? Right. All I'd be doing is shutting you out. Right. When you need help the most.
Yeah. No. And those are the hardest. Most hardest. You really know what you're saying. You're trying to wrap your head around the fact that somebody is gone, and you're never going to see that person again. Yeah. So your mind is telling you a whole bunch of different things, and I mean sometimes it just it's crazy. It's wild. Yeah, I know the feeling. Definitely,
so at that memorial, the happiest poem I thought I could do was a poem about anger. Yeah. And just how pissed off. Yeah. Generally you feel during grief, and the people who reach out to you who don't necessarily have the best intentions for you, because there are people who come up and I don't know, they want personal validation. Right. I remember there was this person who came up who I didn't know them at all, and me and Frank were like this. Of all my brothers, of all my family, me and Frank were like this. He was the person I go to for wisdom the most. And there's this person who came up, no idea who they are. I really loved your brother. You know that? He was great. And in my grief, in my everything, it took everything for me to not punch that motherfucker. And I haven't fought since I was in college. Yeah. And it took everything in me. I was exhausted afterwards.
I was thinking that in my head. I'm like, how did you not punch him in the face?
Yeah,
I was thinking that. Why would you said that?
And I'm
I know the feeling.
I'm not a violent person anymore. And so I remember feeling a lot of guilt about because I've very intentionally avoided being that person. Yeah. And I didn't give myself the patience and love in that moment of no, my anger is legit. Yeah. It doesn't justify me punching him in the face. No, not at all. But
yeah, we don't recommend that to anybody.
Right. And in the end, they're still trying to do something good. Yeah. Even if their thing is self-serving. Right. So I did a whole poem about that, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be taken because of our society.
I was there. It was amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it was so good. I felt it. I started crying. Can you share it? You want to share? Is there something you want to share? You got something you want to share?
Gladly.
We'll switch gears, wrap it up soon.
Let me turn on my phone because I turned it off for the podcast. But the end of that story, though, is I'm standing outside talking to some of the poets who were there, and his mom comes out, and she thanks me and like we hug it, and she says like, I've been so mad and I haven't known like how to talk about it because I feel like people don't want me to talk about it. I'm like, that part of the grief process is so important to be mindful of. Like, your anger is legitimate, period. Every emotion you have is legitimate, period, and it's okay to feel them. There's no reason to feel shame around it. You know, there's no order. I'm in a psychology of death and dying class this semester, and I'll tell the full thing with it real quick before. So 2010, right? Attempted suicide. On my way down in my depressive phase, I was like, you know, it'd be a great class to take. Psychology of death and dying. Yeah, jump in. I failed that class because I stopped showing up. So, you know, go figure.
Was it difficult?
It wasn't. So it was very different. I had an old man who was teaching that named Richard Brooks, who was very like academia and you know, study these terms and get them in, and if you don't do well on the test, you'll fail the test, and there's no leniency whatsoever. And then this current professor I have is incredible. Professor Susan Anderson. She says, look, in this class we're not doing exams. I don't want you to worry about, did I memorize every single aspect? I want to make sure that you're processing what we're talking about. Exactly. So it's a lot of write and reflect. It's a lot of... It's very different. Very different. And like she'll pause the class if people are like really, you know, messed up by the subject matter. Heavy topic. And she's incredible. Wow. If you're at Sac State and you're doing psychology or gerontology, like 100% take her, please. Okay, nice. Wow. I gotta find my notes.
It's all good. Wow, that was a lot of information. It's been amazing though. Like I want to bring awareness. I want people to be able to be like, wow, you know, mental health is all types of different. It looks all types of different ways. All kinds. So many different people. And it even in so I have a niece who is on spectrum, and she is nonverbal autistic, and there it is. And the way that the common saying in autism, the autism world, is if you've met someone with autism, you've met one person with autism, because we tend to take things and generalize them out, like our personal experience. But every expression of autism is unique and different, and it's important to be mindful of that. And that's true for mental health in general. Yes, absolutely. So here's the poem. I found it. Okay. If it's okay. Absolutely, okay. Yes. I want you to share, please. The poem, yes, is amazing. We are here. Take care to take care. Stay mindful of your mind as grief springs up in ways undefined, sometimes so natural it feels like nothing has changed. Some days, what once would have been ripples become wide, roaring rage waves. Reference pain is a term for when harm is experienced in one place of your body, yet hurt is felt in another. I walk into spaces where my brother once lived and exists no longer, and the mere act of being where he was brings reminders of what once was. Sometimes sweet, sometimes bitter. My father and my brother's arms are now phantom limbs, amputated from my body, yet I still feel them. And in that hurt, as grief is processed, I learn to take care to take care. Stay mindful of my mind as grief springs up in ways undefined, sometimes so natural it feels like nothing has changed. Remember this phrase. Hurt people. Hurt people. Hurt people. Hurt people. Don't let death divide you. Its hand reaches far beyond the loss of loved ones. The lesson death too often gives us is connection exists only to bring pain when that connection is gone. That as we come together, we remember someday we will be pulled apart, be it by grief or by choice. Death tells us to withdraw, neglects to say that isolation is the breeding ground of harm, and we know that hurt people, you better love each other while we're here, real close. Replace that lesson death gives us with a better wisdom found in words we already know, like hurt people. Be ready to see outbursts and outrage, desperate fights fought out of grief for the loss. When anger takes shape in the absence of those that we love, you better ask yourself, what the fuck are you actually mad at? And you will find so often that answer is silence.
Grief makes us rage in the face of silence. I turn on every TV, every light in the house, scroll through every post on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, just to drown out the silence. I start fights over nothing, just to not face my own thoughts. I once almost put my fist through a man's throat because he said he loved my brother when I didn't know who he was, and who the fuck was he to speak these words, until I asked myself, who am I fighting for? I know why I'm lashing out. It's not because of his sweet sentiments, far too kind even though they were overstated. I am fighting to be seen for the hurt I have become. New rule. Anything said in the first month of grief is just some shit that dislodged from within you. Fell out of your mouth. Yes, you are still responsible for your words, but I promise I will not tie that to your identity. We need patience and love in this world, the kind I wish I had been given from those who saw me hurting, then wrote me off. Yes, grief is not an excuse. Hard talks need to happen with patience and love and understanding that when put under pressure, when filled with anger, we all blow up. We know that hurt people. Don't let death divide you. If distance is needed, that's fine. You deserve love too, but hurt people. Be mindful of your mind. Don't let death divide you. Let death and this hard-set separation be the reason you love those who are here even harder. And in that love, may you find your new self, not shaped by anger, but in a new vision, love, broader than the narrow scope of our eyes. May you embrace yourself and find peace in love after harm. Amen. And so it shall be.
Yes, yeah. I love that. That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I was there and I heard you perform that for everybody, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm just like, it brought me back brought me back to when my mom first passed away, and I'm just like, everything was coming up for me, and I'm just like, hurt people. When you're hurting on the inside, you really just, have no, all the care goes out the window, and your mind puts you in a whirlwind of emotions and ups and downs, and it's hard to regulate that.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, it's a threefold message. The first is hurt people. So like, be patient when you're dealing with someone who's hurt.
Right.
And then also, like, when you're in this mode where you're just angry and lashing out, go like, wait a minute. I hurt people. I'm hurt. Can I slow down for a second? Right. And then just hurt people, like, as a concept. Like, it's just, I don't know.
It was deep. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we're switching gears. Do you have any events coming up? Any projects you're working on? You're leaving to somewhere in LA?
Somewhere to do absolutely nothing. We are doing nothing. There's this wonderful group that I started and is run. It has me, Natachi Mez, J-Ro, Miss Moxie Brain, Isaac Torres, I hear, is coming back to it. And it's all city writers. Basically, the whole goal of the group originally was to create one-person shows out of our poetry.
Okay.
So I'm working on an hour-long stage performance similar to what you may have seen with Isaac Torres, who is back in town and doing his thing after graduating from acting school out in the Bay, kicking ass and doing wonderful things.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, and mine is centered around my growth journey with mental health.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and there's like elements of video parts. There's a voiceover that I respond to that is like my subconscious talking to me, my depression. It's a wild show. And
I love all the creativity going into this. When is this?
So we're still kind of like getting back in gear. We may have Kaya, who's back in town, on it, if you know who Kaya is, amazing poet. So yeah, I'm still trying to like round up everybody.
Okay, but you're working on it.
Yeah, we did take a little bit of a break because I went back to college and everybody has life going on.
Right. Life be life, and that's what I keep hearing. So that's dope. Okay, so do you have anything else going on other than that? You're just gonna be gone for a while.
Honestly, it's been college.
Okay, no, that's good. Keep your mind busy. Yeah, that's the best thing to do.
Actually, what am I doing? So I wrote a book.
What?
Not like a full book, chapbook.
Okay.
I have 3 that I meant to release before I started college, and then I started college. But this one, it was a 24-hour project. I wrote it all in 24 hours
Wow.
at Christmas because I was by myself for Christmas. Long story. And my proceeds from it, all you have to do is donate to an organization called CHRLA, which is the Coalition for Immigrant Rights. I can't remember the full name.
Okay.
But it's in LA. And for Sac State, because I was worried about deportations for
Definitely.
immigrant students that we have here, myself possibly included if they cut away birthright citizenship.
This I can't believe this is.
It's surreal that my dad told me about this my whole life,
Right.
that they could take away our citizenship anytime they want.
That's a whole nother mental health issue.
Right?
Oh.
On top of everything. So this organization provides legal representation for students who are facing deportation, and they've actually saved students from being deported in the middle of the semester.
Okay.
Means a lot to me personally,
Yeah,
and they offer other resources
That means
as
a
well.
lot to me, just for you to be able to do that. That's amazing. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah,
Great
no.
for you to do that.
I believe there's a link to it on my Instagram. All you got to do is donate there. You don't have to tell me how much. You don't have to do none of that. I don't handle any of the money. It goes straight to them. And just tell me that you donated. I'll send you a PDF copy.
Okay, so what's your Instagram? Where can people follow you?
It is Bardic Lore on Instagram. And or Bardic_Lore on Instagram. On TikTok, it's Bardic Lore, all one thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, that's the show. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on here, hearing your stories. Yes, check yourself, check your mental health, everybody.
100%.
Definitely tune into Thursday Therapies, subscribe, go on David's pages and support what he has going on. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
I seriously, I've been so excited to be on this show.
No,
so
it's been
thank you
great.
for doing it.
It's been great. Your story, I hope, can help a million other people. I hope at least just one. But definitely, I want this show to be able to help and reach people.
And I hope, I don't know you extremely well.
Right.
I want to say thank you for doing this, first of all.
Thank you.
And more to the point, I hope this grows.
I hope it grows
continues
too.
to
The
grow
community's
because
been amazing.
This is so needed.
It is needed.
So,
It is needed.
again,
And
thank you.
Just a discussion, just to know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
We're struggling. We don't have to struggle alone. We definitely don't. You can start trusting something.
That's right.
Trusting
And
something.
you should support, because this is beautiful things, right? We don't need to struggle alone, like she just said.
No.
Listen
Check
to her.
yourself. Check your mental health. Thank you.